The Ultramarines and the Imperial Fist have decided on a joint operation that will punch through the rebel lines and lead them to the encampment where all of the major rebel leaders have gathered. Getting through the armored columns that defend the rebel camp will be difficult, as will the heavily guarded attacking the heavily guarded encampments which contain their targets. Both the Imperial Fist and the Space Marines have mobilized almost all of their forces in order to accomplish this goal. Once this surgical strike is completed, they will withdraw from the area. Welcome to the Valley of the Void. It's called that because that's a line of a song that I like. And it sort of fits since Chaos Space Marines have a hand in this rebellion. As you can see, this is a very much a pitched battle, two heavily armored forces squaring off with one another. And what better way to test rules that allow units to continue to live until the end of the battle round? That means it doesn't matter who goes first, not necessarily, because I could, for example, damage those chimerae in the front as much as possible, and I could do all of their wounds, but the people won't actually spill out till the end of the battle round. It'll be interesting to see how this works in practice, as lots of las cannons, lots of battle cannons, etc., a vanquisher cannon work overtime to try and kill enemy tanks, and yet the tanks will stay alive until the end of the battle round. So that's primarily what I'm testing. I'm also testing the almost all weapons are infinite range, except for various weapons that are traditionally 12 inches, such as pistols, shotguns. And in addition to that, we're also testing the same thing that I tested on the first playtest session, having crew eject. That will favor the Space Marines because they have to make their armor save to eject. So a 5-up save on these tanks, there's probably not going to be a lot of crew left over. So let's take a look at exactly what's happening here. On the Space Marine side, we have a Land Raider Crusader. Inside are a tactical squad, a captain, and a Devastator squad. Anyone who would normally be carrying a missile launcher is now carrying a las cannon. And then we have 4 tanks that represent the Imperial Fists. 3 of them are las and plas. 1 is a twin las. And then, of course, we have 2 Predator Annihilators with all las cannons. Inside, we have 2 tactical combat squads, Flamer and Missile Launcher. And we have a Devastator squad that is just 4 missile launchers. So this is the combined Imperial Fist and Ultramarine force going up against this Rebel armored column. As far as the armored column on the Rebel side, in the center Chimera is a Traitor Guard squad with a Traitor Commissar, or rather a Traitor Enforcer and his mutated Ogre. In the other 2, it's just a 10-man Traitor Guard squad. These ones I'm actually giving special weapons to. So these are Plasma, Melta, and Sniper Rifles. Then we have various Leman Russes, which I'm not going to bother explaining, just that the back one is the Tank Commander. Now, even without weapons having unlimited range, all these las cannons should have no problem targeting the Tank Commander, and they're probably going to prioritize the Tank Commander, even though I'm not using rules, or I'm not using orders, because the Vanquisher Battle Cannon, when it hits really hard, and it's the best counter to the Land Raider. Land Raider itself isn't going to do that much against all this armor, but it will be able to lay waste to whoever spills out here. And it's probably going to wait until it gets into the mess here before it disgorges its troops, because this is just a lot of heavy bolters. and they're going to just chew those tactical Marines to pieces. Speaking of heavy bolters, we're continuing the rule where to demonstrate that the rebels have difficulty with their supply lines, all heavy bolters no longer have sustained hits, and they only have 2 attacks. Everything else is the same, but that just demonstrates that they have so few heavy bolter rounds that they have to be very careful with what they shoot. Instead of just laying into something, they have to just fire 1 or 2 shots at a time. Multi-lasers are fine, though. And, of course, plenty of battle cannon, etc. shells. So, that's the introduction. And now, because both sides have essentially shown up at the same time, if I can find my dice. Since both sides met each other at the same time, we're actually going to roll off to see who goes first. I'll roll an Ultramarines die for the Space Marine side. And well, let's call that cocked. Alright, looks like the Space Marines are starting off the turn. Remember, even if all these las cannons end up destroying these vehicles in the front or even in the back, they won't actually die until the end of the battle round. Okay, the Marine movement phase is over. They have been very cautious because they won't know until the end of the battle round exactly how much damage they've done. So they've really just moved into better positions. The Land Raider has pushed forward as far as it can because it wants to be spitting out troops into these craters. But for now, this is where it's going to stay. Unfortunately, we can't do a 1-2 punch where we have a Predator kill a Chimera and then the Land Raider kill the occupants. So we'll see how the all damage at the end of the battle round rule works. We'll see the merits and flaws as we play this game. On to the Marine shooting phase. End of Marine shooting. 1 of the Lazenplas supercharged and paid the price. It took 3 mortal wounds, so it's down to 7 wounds. Both these Chimerae were killed. This one took a lot of effort to kill from very poor rolls. Ultimately, it was a supercharged plasma gun shot that did the final wound. So now we're going to the Rebel turn 1. And these vehicles that have been killed, they will be able to shoot. Okay, so we finished Rebel turn 1. They opted not to move. There's really no reason for them to. This Predator ended up taking 10 wounds. He's got 1 wound remaining. And the Land Raider took 1 wound. There's lots and lots of small arms. I've been doing things to speed things up. I've been combining all the heavy bolters, combining all the lasgun arrays. And I do have to slow down once I get to the point that a tank could actually die from it, but in the beginning you can combine a lot of stuff together to save time. Couple things I'm realizing about unlimited range. First of all, it should be specified that while the range is unlimited, the weapon still has its range on the profile. And that's important for things like rapid fire. There are rapid fire weapons in this battle. The Hurricane Bolter and the lasgun array. Since the rapid fire, I can say yes, ultimately their range is unlimited, but they will only get rapid fire if they're within half range of their listed range. So that's how to reconcile that. I'll make the changes to the document after this test. There was something else I had decided about unlimited range, but I can't remember now, so we'll see if it comes back up. Anyway, we are now going into the beginning of the Space Marine turn 2. And just before that happens, I'm going to remove these from the board and have the guys, obviously, well, they'll spill out first, and then I'll remove the tanks. So this is how it looks at the end of the second battle round. So we have both squads spilled out. So that way, at the beginning of the second battle round, when the Marines take turn 1, they can make decisions based on what has happened. So the Land Raider is possibly going to target one or both of these squads, and it may even be time to have troops come out. The troops won't really do much against the tanks, but they will do something against your average guys. Plus, there is a Devastator squad with 4 las cannons, so maybe it's time to pull the trigger on that. We'll find out in a moment. Marine turn 2 is starting now. The Marine movement phase is over. The Imperial Fist realized that they need to drive their tank column into the craters and toward the enemy if they want the 15 soldiers inside the tanks to leap out and fight. Here, as you can see, the Ultramarines have disembarked. Here is another unlimited range rule, melta. There are a lot of melta weapons that are very specifically range locked. Most meltagun type weapons are 12 inches, sometimes 18. Most melta pistols are 6 inches, sometimes 3. And that tends to really influence how they work in the battlefield. Making meltaguns unlimited range is probably a terrible idea. Melta has always cut back on its range. For example, a multi-melta is 24-inch range, whereas a las cannon is 48, or a heavy bolter is 36. So, meltaguns definitely need to be examined. I would still say that half of their listed range is what you need for melta, so even if I had a melta gun back here, shooting all the way across the board, it would still need to be within 3 inches to get the melta rule. But this is why we had these playtest sessions, so I'm just going to say outright, no unlimited range on melta guns. They'll join pistols and shotguns, and actually, I think I did a provision that said any 12-inch range weapon, regardless of pistol or shotgun, would not be given unlimited range. 12 inches or less. I'll have to double check on that, but if that's the case, then I don't have to do anything. The meltagun has 12-inch range, and that's it. And then the plasma pistol and the sergeant, it falls under the pistol requirement in the rules, so the pistol will not get unlimited range either. Alright, let's go into shooting. This marks the end of the Space Marine shooting phase. The Land Raider, the number got knocked, still has 15 wounds. Anyway, the Land Raider and the Tactical Squad were able to eliminate everyone but the leaders of this central squad. They ignored this squad, trying to focus down this one here, which is more damaging. We actually lost a Marine. He supercharged his plasma pistol and he rolled a 1, so he took 3 mortal wounds that do not spread to other guys. He had no defense against that, so he died. I tried popping one of the leaders with this gun, but I just keep rolling misses on the big guns. The meltagun missed. Both of these las cannons missed. So, we were able to destroy this transport. We did fling a few shots across the board, but they didn't do anything. Alright, time for Rebel Turn 2. Before I do anything, I want to mention that the other thing that I thought of when it came to the rules that we're testing, it wasn't about unlimited range weapons. This was about damage applying at the end of the battle round. A provision needs to be put in that relates to penalties that vehicles suffer from when they're damaged. In other words, this Chimera is damaged because it's at 0 wounds. I believe the wording on damage is if it's taken more than this many wounds. So being at 0 wounds would qualify as damaged. But I should probably put in a notation just to make sure that you're not saying, oh, well, I can never be damaged because I can't be killed until the end of the battle round. So, something to think about. In any case, the rebels are attempting a flanking stratagem. Uh, 2 Russes have broken off and are moving left. 2 are moving right. And it looks like the tank commander is following the 2 going to the left, but he hasn't entirely committed. It looks like he could still go right if he needed to. Whereas the Chimera, on its last legs, made it to an area where they could safely deposit the troops. And look at that, we have a meltagun right next to this tank with only 1 wound left. Although I guess it doesn't really matter. The melta rule doesn't really matter. If he wounds the tank, it's done. And we also have a plasma gun that could scratch the paint on something. And a sniper rifle here that maybe could draw line of sight to this squad. So we'll see what happens. Alright, so that's the end of the movement phase. Now to roll out a whole ton of attacks. And just saying this actually for the record, these guys are going to charge. Once they're done attacking. Once they're done shooting. Alright, here's a recap of the shooting phase. This vehicle died and exploded. This vehicle was killed by battle cannons. The explosion hit several vehicles. Even the Land Raider took some damage. Even a couple of guys in here took damage from the explosion. So it was pretty big. So at the end of the battle round, we'll be removing this guy, and this guy. But first, we have a charge move. These guys definitely are melee specialists, so they're going to move in and see what they can do. Also, it'll be interesting to see about not killing models until the end of the battle round in melee. So we'll see how that works. The Marines rolled hot on their saves, so they're fine. And they managed to put 3 wounds on the mutant Ogren. So things are going pretty well there. Close combat specialist whiffing and a tactical squad with the sergeant out of combat still managing to do a lot of wounds to the tough guy. So things are working well in the Marines' favor so far. With combat out of the way, at this point, we'd be at the end of the battle round. If anyone had died in the combat, now they would get removed. So they would have been able to fight even if they died. So in other words, if the traitor Ogren just massacred like 3 or 4 guys, they would still get to swing until the end of the fight phase where they would be pulled as casualties. Again, the reason for this is that you can't just wipe out a squad. Like, I could send the tactical Marines to charge this unit of traitor guardsmen, and they wouldn't stand a chance. They'd get deleted from the game before they even got a chance to swing their weapons. And the entire point of removing models at the end of the battle round is to give models that chance. So if I were to charge in and fight the traitor guardsmen who disintegrate in close combat, they would still at least get to swing their weapons and hit something and maybe do a wound before they go. Of course, it gets trickier when you have a close combat specialist trying to eliminate another close combat specialist, because when you're going into that fight, you know that they're going to be able to swing back. But again, that's the point. You're going to know that in advance. So if I have a Terminator Assault Squad and you have an Exalted 8-bound squad, and I have the Terminators and I'm thinking, do I want to charge in and try and take out those 8-bound? I might be able to. But if we're removing models at the end of the battle round, then even if I kill them, they still get to swing back at me. So that would factor into my decision making, where I think, no, it's not worth it. It's not worth sacrificing the Terminators to kill the 8-bound. So I'll try more. I'm going to try this rule out a lot more. I'm going to do a lot of testing with it. The next few sessions, I'm going to try with removing models at the end of the battle round. And I want to see things break. I want to see the rules break. Because if the rules break, that means I'm playtesting properly and I'm finding the errors. So, this was the end of So this is now the end of the battle round. So we're removing all of our destroyed tanks. And if there were any infantry destroyed, they would be removed now as well. And then we start up battle round 3. Top of turn 3. It's the Space Marine turn. Marine movement phase 2. The Imperial Fists have made a very aggressive move, and all of their troops are now on the field. I neglected to mention earlier that a Tech Marine is accompanying this Devastator squad. It's really just there to represent the leadership presence for the Imperial Fists. He's not actually going to be able to contribute to anything that the Devastator squad does. You see we have a unit here that's going to try to take care of this squad. We have a missile launcher in here, which will be firing a frag missile. We have a flamer, a combat squad with one flamer in it. And they're going to try to put some wounds on this squad here. Meanwhile, the Land Raider still has all of its infantry killing capabilities. It is not in combat, even though the troops in front of it are. So we're going to see something happen there. This Devastator squad is mostly staying in reserve. They kind of need things to clear out here first. And there's no real point in them moving around yet. On to the shooting phase. Okay, the Marine turn is done. The tank commander has 1 wound remaining. What we expected to happen did happen. All of the infantry has been wiped out. The only enemy infantry is the actual traitor enforcer. And here are his saves. These are just punches and kicks against him, and 3 of them, he failed 3 saves, so technically he's dead. However, he's not dead, because we don't remove him until the end of the battle round. So he's fighting back, even though he's technically dead right now. And he should be doing that on the next turn as well. So depending on how this turns out, I might have to make an exception. 3 wounds. AP -2, 5 up saves. That's 3 dead Marines. Well, 1 with 1 wound. And 2 more. So, I might have to make an exception. In melee, you don't remove a model. Well, you remove a model as soon as it's dead. I might make it just a shooting rule. And the main reason I tossed this rule out there is I borrowed it from Apocalypse, the failed Apocalypse expansion. And it really is intended for shooting. I didn't specify that it was only for shooting. So I probably will. I'll probably go back and edit and say, yes, it's just for shooting. Because even though he died, he still got to fight back. And next turn, he's going to fight again. And I have no way of stopping him from doing that. So we are going to move ahead saying that removing models at the end of the battle round is only for ranged. That could get confusing if you're shooting and charging a unit. I'm just going to have to do a lot more playtesting just to see the situations that come up. In this case, it's just it's too abusive on melee. When you're in melee, you're fighting twice as often as you are shooting. So, yeah, for right now, I'm going to try to balance it as only for shooting wounds. But then you'll have to keep track of... I'll think about it. There's only 1 more close combat here. Well, only 1 close combat. And in light of this adjustment, he'll die. And there's no more close combat for the rest of this entire battle. It's all a shooting game now. So, I'll do some more focus testing on that specifically to just to see how it works. Maybe I'll throw some dreadnoughts or other mixed role units like Terminators. Uh, have them shoot, have them charge, try to figure out exactly how the rule should work. And that's playtesting 101 right there. So let's finish this battle. I'm eager to see if the Marines can push through the rebel lines and make it to their camp. So we're going to start the rebel turn. Rebel turn 3, I believe. The rebel tanks are beginning their flanking stratagem. We'll see if it's enough to halt the Marine advance through the valley. Rebel turns are going to go a lot faster now. They finished their shooting. They were able to destroy both Razorbacks. Now, once they hit 0 wounds, I do roll Deadly Demise for them, but they're still going to last until the end of the battle round. Although, now that the Astra Militarum is done shooting, and they're not charging, and there are no fights to resolve, it is the end of the battle round, so we are removing the dead tanks. One of the Russes was also able to put more wounds on this one. So this Razorback has 4 wounds remaining. This one has the full 10. Things have gotten a lot thinner. This is very much a meat grinder situation here. Not a type of deployment that Marines would favor. They don't like to just line up and into ranks and shoot. They prefer strategy. But in this case, it couldn't be helped. It's working very well for the traders, however. They didn't fire on the troops at all. They felt the threat was minimal at this point. There are a lot of missile launchers that aren't doing anything to them. Not really, not yet. But we'll see what happens. We're beginning Marine turn 4. Marines have finished their movement. These Razorbacks have backed off to allow both tactical combat squads to get into that crater. These guys aren't moving because they like their 3+ ballistic skill. They don't want to mess it up. These guys did move into an interesting configuration, taking care to make sure that no one's overhanging. The Land Raider is moving to physically block the flanking maneuver. And these Marines did move to get into that crater. Most of them were in it. There were a couple that weren't quite. Now they're wholly within the crater. So the troops are getting ready for probably a lot of heavy bolter fire, as the number of armored targets is dwindling. So let's see what the Marines can do with their shooting phase. Alright, we're at the end of the Space Marine shooting phase. This tactical squad fired everything into this Russ, which was at its max health. And only 2 weapons connected, the meltagun, which is in melta range, and the las cannon. Both rolled 6s on their damage, and it has now went from completely fresh to destroyed. Let's see, what else? This squad here rolled really hot. This Russ went from being fresh down to 7 wounds. This one from fresh to 6 wounds. Now, I've put an enormous amount of anti-infantry fire into this tank commander, hoping to do 1 wound. He's been rolling not a single one on his armor saves. So I just want to do this live because I think it would be interesting. This is the last attack of the Space Marine shooting phase. This is the Hurricane Bolters. As you can see, we have 7 wounds. If the tank commander rolls at least 1-1, he'll die. And there we go. There it is. The one that I've been waiting for this whole turn. So the tank commander is now dead, along with this tank here. Let's roll Deadly Demise. No. And actually, I need Deadly Demise on him, too. No. All right. So that is, there you have it. 2 rushes down, 2 rushes taken down to about half their health. And we're going to be beginning the movement phase, which I'm going to skip over for the most part. And then we're going to go right into shooting. Quick update. These 2 rebel tanks that were moving up the right flank, they have been physically blocked by the presence of Imperial Fists. So they're probably going to get they're probably going to take some fire here. The tank commander is pulling it through the center. He is intent on trying to disable or destroy the Land Raider. And these 2 had to put on the brakes before they ran right into the Land Raider. They backpedaled and pointed both their turrets at the Land Raider. So this will be an interesting turn to see what the rebels are capable of at this point, now that they've especially lined up in such a formation that the Marines have to deal with them, and the Marines have to destroy everything just to get through. On to Rebel shooting phase 4. The Rebel shooting phase was once again short-lived. The heavy bolters from these 3 tanks, as well as the main guns from these 2, went into this squad and killed 3 Marines. 2 missile launchers are left, plus the Tech Priest. Or Tech Marine, rather. These 2 put their heavy bolters into this squad, killed 2 guys, and put their main guns into the tank. It's now at 10 wounds. That's not dead. There is no 10 I can really use. So he has 10 wounds remaining. This thing whiffed entirely. It being damaged severely hindered their ability to do damage. So we're going to move into... well, first we're going to remove vehicles. We only have 1 to remove. And I just realized I'm breaking my own rule. These guys technically were hanging around, and they needed to be removed at the end of the battle round, which I suppose I did. I didn't technically remove them yet, and they didn't get a chance to do anything. I mean, they did earlier in the term, but after they died, they really never had... I wasn't able to use them, so at the end of the battle round, these guys are all getting removed as well. Definitely need more focused testing on that. All right, so we're now going into Marine turn 5. This should definitely tell us a thing or two about how long this game is going to last. It's probably going to end fairly soon. Just realized I don't see a wound counter on him. This guy has 7 wounds remaining. Anyway, Marine turn 5. Marine shooting phase is over, and they cleaned up. This tank has been destroyed, and so is this one. The Land Raider took a deadly demise, took 3 deadly demise wounds, so he's down to 7. And a gets hot on the, or hazardous, on the twin, supercharging twin plasma guns, brought this guy down to 1 wound. But he's still kicking. Everyone stood still and shot because almost everybody has a heavy weapon. These guys just don't want to leave, I guess, the cover. So we'll do rebel shooting. They still have all 3 tanks, so we're going to see what happens there. And then the Marines are probably just going to finish them off. Normally I don't like going into turn 6, but we'll see what happens. Rebel shooting phase turn 5 is over. Heavy bolters knocked out the last 2 devastators. Only the Tech Marine remains. And this vehicle lost its last wound. From these battle cannons. This actually, the autocannons actually went into the last Marine to kill him. So the Land Raider is still fine. Alright, so we're going to remove the dead tanks. And the dead models. It'd be more meaningful to demonstrate this rule if these models were being killed at the top of the turn. That also shows some imbalance, that dying at the top of the turn is better than dying at the bottom of the turn. We have one tank left, and it's unhurt. Marines can probably pick it apart, but mainly with infantry. It looks like the armored portion of this armored column is done for. So let's try one more turn. And with the Marine shooting phase on turn 6, the Marines are finally able to destroy the last Russ. I actually rolled all the anti-infantry stuff I had together, including the Land Raider, and it took him down to 3 wounds, because he finally, for the first time in a long time, after all the anti-infantry shots going into all these tanks, he just, the odds broke, and he just kept rolling ones. Also, we had MVP, this meltagun guy, also landed another shot that did 6 damage. So, or not 6. I don't remember now. But anyway, it was a big hit. So, it was quite comical how that last tank got taken down. Not exactly the way you expect it. Once he was down to 3 wounds, I fired all 4 of these guys, and that was the end of him. So, on turn 6, the Marines are victorious. And it's lucky they have a Tech Marine here, because all they're left with is a Razorback and a damaged Land Raider. So their attack on the... This is going to affect what they can bring when they make their attack on the Rebel camp in an attempt to eliminate the Rebel commanders. As you can see, there's quite a lot of... I wouldn't say a lot of attrition. We lost 5 Devastators. None of these guys were hurt. And we did lose a little over half the squad. Technically, they should be making battle shock tests. But, yeah. That's the end of playtest session 4. So, thoughts? Unlimited range. Definitely needs a couple of tweaks. I definitely need to make sure that guns that start off with a range of 12 do not get unlimited range. And I also need to stipulate that it's still important to know what your range is, because if you're at half range, you'll get your rapid fire, you'll get your melta. So there's that. As far as models being pulled, we didn't get to experience that as much as I wanted to. We need more infantry to see how that will work. Models getting pulled at the end of the game, that's going to be the rule for the next few playtests at least. I need to see exactly how much it's going to mess with the game. It did allow the Rebels to get a lot of licks in when they had destroyed tanks. In their last turn, they had 2 tanks that were able to make meaningful contributions, even though they had already been killed. And that is actually what I was going for when I wrote that rule. When I borrowed the rule from the Apocalypse expansion. That's going to be ongoing. The playtest is going to be ongoing for that. So playtest session 5 will be next week. And that will focus on the Marines attacking the Rebel camp, trying to kill the Rebel leaders, and I'm going to I'm going to pay a lot more attention to the rule for only removing models at the end of the battle round. We're going to scale it down so it's not lots of tanks shooting each other. I want it to be more infantry focused, so that way we can see what it's like if, say, I kill 4 members of this tactical squad or of this combat squad, and they all still get to act until the end of the battle round. So we'll see what happens. So that's it for now. This ends with a Marine victory over the Rebels, but it's only another hurdle their actual destination will tell us whether or not the Marines can meaningfully damage the rebellion, where the Astra Militarum Liberation Force can hold down the big battles, the big conflicts. The Marines should be going after specific targets. They should be doing surgical strikes. Uh, Combat like you just saw here, it just bogs Marines down. It causes casualties. It destroys equipment. This is not what Marines prefer to do when it comes to uh, the operations that they do. So they survived it, and there's still a lot of bodies left. The captain is still there. The tech marine's still there. All of these forces will be attacking the rebel camp next week.